Welcome back to the Kinda Unamused podcast. My name is Madeline Perrott, your one and only host. But you can call me Maddie because we're friends now, whether you like it or not. As you can tell, I am sitting in a different location in my room. I'm not sitting on my bed. I'm not sitting on the floor. I'm currently sitting at my desk. It's going to be a chill day, just like every other day, just like every other week. It's going to be another chill one. Not a whole lot is going in the world right now, once again. Per usual, this is my allergy medicine for the video listeners. It is starting to become fall temperature here in New York. I'm in Western New York, and it was a high of 69 today. It's been pretty chilly outside. It's been pretty chilly and pretty nice. I wish it would just stay from the 40s to the 60s and just stay that weather. I don't want it to go below 40. Once it goes below 40, I start to have an issue with the cold. But once it starts to go above 90, I have an issue with the heat. But yeah, fall is officially coming. It is August. We're in the second week of August, I think. Slowly starting to seep into that Halloween stuff. All the stores are starting to sell Halloween decorations. Spirit Halloween is open in a lot of locations now, so it's becoming that time, which means school's starting again, and I don't know why, the summer felt like it went by so fast. It went by crazy fast. I don't know if it's just me, but that's how it felt for me. And now I'm going into my senior year of college, which is so freaking weird, and I'm so beyond not ready for it because I'm just not ready for the senior college life. I'm not. The college senior life. The having to work on the final project and having to pay for graduation and this, that, and the next thing. And having to figure out what I'm going to do after college is, I think, the scariest part for me. Me personally, I probably talked about it here a couple times. I just don't know what I'm doing with my life. I genuinely have no idea, and it is absolutely terrifying. I feel like you can become so successful at a young age now, and so people expect you to, do so well in your early 20s, in your 20s just in general, because the world has opportunities for young people now. So I feel like I have a lot of pressure to just figure out what I'm going to do with my life when I don't know what to do with my life. It is consuming my brain, and I am not here for it, at all. I'm not. Because, okay, also, I'm an art major, so my pathway is very vague. There are a lot of things you can do with an art major and not a lot of things you can do with the art major, with a BFA. I feel like a lot of people go to college specifying in something specific, and then they know what they're going to go into because they've been studying it, With an art major, you could go about it in a lot of different ways. You could use the art history knowledge and become an art historian type vibe, like working at an art museum and doing art galleries and or preserving historic art pieces and all this different stuff in the art history realm. And then there's the creative side where you can be making your own art and selling your own art if you're good enough and if people like your style. And then there's also the using your art skills to create art for businesses, like creative design in marketing and web design and all these other things. And there's all the different types of art. There's animation, there's graphic design, there's painting, there's drawing, there's, it's so vast. It's so vast. And I'm happy that I did art because I don't think I really could do anything else. I'm not that well versed. I'm going to say well versed in really anything else. I don't think I would necessarily be good at anything else. But at the same time, do I think I'm that good at art? I have absolutely no idea. This is like this ongoing battle for me. And I don't know if this is just me or if other artists experience similar feelings, but you get told throughout an early age, if you've been doing art like your entire life, you get told from an early age that, oh yeah, you have something, like you could totally do this for a living. You could, you really have something, like you should, like, they're lifting you up to, like, be like, yeah, you're good at this, you can make a living out of this. But like for me personally, people say that, and then I look at my own work and I'm like, I don't really know if this is that impressive. Because then I look at other people's work and I'm like, oh my god. Yeah, I'm very much so not that good. I'm very much so, like, in the retrospect of artists that are currently doing well in the art community, my skill level, I feel like I could do it, but I can't do it at the same time. It's kind of hard to explain, but as you can tell, I'm kind of like all over the place with it. I'm questioning if I'm actually good at what I do. But the thing is that art is so subjective. So like I could look at a painting and be like, yeah, that's like a really good painting. Like it was done really well and I really like it aesthetically. And then someone else can look at it and be like, that is literally trash. So it's so hard to like navigate if my own personal art is good because I just don't know. I don't know if it's good. And like I've had things in the past happen to me to where it can affirm that I'm decent. Like for my sophomore year, I'm kind of going on a ramble, but let's just let me finish it and then I'll get into the interesting stuff. My sophomore year of college, I did this junior art exhibit. I don't know why I was a sophomore doing a junior thing. It just was the way it was, I guess. There was 3 of us and we had to make our own collection of paintings or whatever. I think they were mainly paintings. And then we did an art show together. And so that's what we did the entire semester, was just work on this series of paintings. Mine was called Soundbite. I think I had 7 pieces in total. They were all paintings of a food that was associated / represented a piece of music. So, for example, I'll show some examples on the video version of this on my YouTube. So you can go check that out if you want to see these paintings. For example, I had this like I had 2 canvases put together, and it was a depiction of a koi fish type looking fish on a platter, and it was a food. I know people don't eat koi fish, but it was supposed to be representing Lavender Haze from Taylor Swift. I also made a cake painting for Melanie Martinez's cake, and I made a pizza for what was that? Ed Sheeran's song "Don't." I had a bunch of them. I had a little strawberry basket for Strawberry Fields. Was it the Beatles, I think? I had butter for Fiona Apple. Like, I had this whole thing, and I was really proud of it. It took me a long time to do, and I really liked it. It was just like, it was a fun thing for me to do. And before the show even happened, I had my art pieces hung up ready for the show, but the show hadn't happened yet. And some man was walking in our building, some rich man. I don't know who he was. And he was talking to her about these paintings. My teacher was like, "Would you like them?" And he was like, "Yeah, actually, are they for sale?" And she asked me first, of course, before they were sold. But he ended up buying 5 of my paintings, which was really cool. Or four of my paintings, and my grandparents bought one of them. I thought it was really funny. They paid way too much for this little painting of butter. Yeah, so like things like that have happened in my past where I'm like, I do have something that people do like, but I just don't know if I can actually profit off of selling my art. And what even is my art? That's like one of the things that I've been struggling with. What is my art? Like that specific series, The Soundbite, was a passion project to a degree. I found a really fun concept and just went with it. And I can make more paintings like that because I think it is really cool and really fun. I can make prints like that. I can make stickers like that. I just don't know if people, like the general community, would like that. If you may or may not know, I'm trying to build a shop for people to buy my art to a degree, like buy prints of my art. And I don't know if I should lean that way. I'm also heavily like, something that consumes my entertainment life is nostalgia. So recently I've been messing with nostalgic shows, specifically nostalgic shows and movies, and creating art that revolves around those, that are kind of like aesthetic but cutesy and something that I personally like. But I don't know if just because I like it, does that mean other people like it too? But if I'm just creating stuff that's just for other people, is it really my art? Do you see what I'm saying? It's confusing for me too. This is what's going on in my brain like every other day whenever I try to think, can I make a living off of my art? And if I don't make a living off of my art, then what else am I going to do with my life? Make art for other people? Well, I've tried that too, and that is a hard thing to do. Can I do like physical painting commissions? Potentially. Yeah. But I've had past experiences where it's not an easy route. It's not an easy thing necessarily. And it's not a guaranteed thing either. And then I could also work for a major company. But then again, with major companies, typically they don't work with fine arts. They work with digital art. And I am not well versed in the digital art world. I am majoring in a fine art. Very hands-on, painting, drawing, sketching, doing stuff with your hands, not on a computer. So that's something that I can't necessarily do. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I could just, get my knowledge of like color and form and texture and maybe go into interior decorating. But I don't know if that's a route that I should go, because I don't really have any other knowledge whenever it comes to interior design of any sort. And then I could also be a teacher. But I just don't really like kids. So there's that. That's a pretty big factor. Like, I like kids, but I don't like being around kids all the time, if that makes any sense. So, but I can't just immediately go into college because that's a whole other level of things that you need to do. Do you see my dilemma here? Because I have one. Anyway, sorry. This is a rant. I'm confused too. Anyway, it's very demure, very mindful, very cutesy. Have you guys been seeing that literally everywhere? What does demure mean? Does anyone know what that means? Because I have absolutely no idea. I assume it's like in the same realm as cutesy and mindful and, whatever, because that's what people associate it with. But it's very weird. Heaven hates the word. I personally find it very funny. It's very demure, very cutesy, very mindful. I wish I could say that about my brain, but that's not the case. Anyway, something that's not cutesy and mindful? The drama with It Ends With Us. If you don't know, there was a movie that recently came out called It Ends With Us. It is a Colleen Hoover movie, like book adaptation into a movie. movie adaptation from a book. I got that switched up. And it stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. And there has been a lot. Oh, look at that sun coming out in the lines. There has been a lot of drama revolving around this show, mainly talking about Blake Lively's behavior. If you don't know what this story, It Ends With Us, is about, most of Colleen Hoover's books, apparently, I haven't read any of them. I'm not a romance book person. Very much so action, very much so murder mystery, very much so fantasy. That's the realm that I like to be in whenever it comes to books and things specifically. But hers is all romance and very like steamy romance apparently. So I've heard. But this one revolves a lot, if you don't know already, which you probably know if you've been on the internet, but it revolves around domestic abuse. And it revolves around this, cutesy girl. What's her name? Lily Blossom Bloom is her name. Very unfortunate name. But it revolves around her opening her own store, and this kind of like love triangle type vibe between someone that she knew whenever she was in high school, and then someone that she meets when she first opens up her flower shop. Spoilers ahead. She ends up marrying this guy that she meets when she first opened up the flower shop, like in present time, whom is her best friend's brother, her new best friend's brother. And they end up getting married, and he ends up being abusive. And the story is a little, it's a very harsh, not harsh, but it's a very sensitive topic to, talk about and to represent in book form and movie form, because unfortunately it is something that happens in a lot of people's lives, and a lot of people struggle with domestic abuse, domestic violence, verbal and physical. So the topic, I feel, is not something that is commonly used in entertainment world. So the fact that they did make a movie over this, I personally don't think is a bad thing. I don't think that it is bad to represent something that is unfortunately, very common in many households, as long as you do it correctly. I think it is okay to show and represent a relationship that was so genuine and beautiful to some degree, and then it turning south and people showing their true colors, and it ending up in a bad situation, in a scary situation, in a dangerous situation. And as long as the story shows, I think it could go two ways. As long as it doesn't romanticize violence, as long as it doesn't say like, this is okay, it can go it just being a very sad and unfortunate story where there isn't a happy ending, which is unfortunately, I think, the case for most people, real life stories. Or it goes the opposite route, where the bad things happen, and then the person, or the bad situation gets treated the way that it should be, to where it gets stopped. The person that did the bad things gets punishment for it in some way, shape, or form, and the person, the victim, gets some sort of relief or, something out of it. I can't speak for it personally myself. I haven't experienced anything like that. So this is just based off of what I personally think, but, I can't speak for it that much. So I did watch the movie myself. I was curious about it because of all of the drama that's been happening around it. And now I'm going to give you the context of the drama. So Blake Lively, she is best known for her role in the show Gossip Girl, the older Gossip Girl. I never liked that show. I never actually watched that show. But that is what she's best known for. And then she's also married. She's also married to Ryan Reynolds. And they have, I think, 3 kids together. So that's Blake Lively. And then there's Justin Baldoni. And I don't know what he's best known for. I've never seen this man in my life before this. I'm sorry out there for the people who are like, how can you not know who he is? Like, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. I just don't know who he is. He and Blake Lively are having bad tension amongst each other and each other's teams and publicity and all that stuff because of the way that each of them are like promoting the movie. Justin Baldoni is, I don't think that he's talking about it very much, the movie in general. Like, he's not really going to the press stuff. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. And whenever he does talk about it, he mainly talks about, he says stuff like, if you are in a domestic violence situation, you reach out to this phone number and do this and that. He's trying to put out a good word or whatever. He's not really like talking about the movie in general. Mind you, he apparently directed the movie. He was at least one of the directors in the movie. And Blake Lively, I think, was one of the producers. One of the tensions that was happening, one of the drama-fueled things, was that Justin wanted the movie to go about one way, and Blake wanted it to go about in a different way. They both filmed their own versions of, they both filmed their versions of how they wanted, and we actually don't know what ended up being in the final movie. But they obviously had some sort of like creative dispute. And another issue is that apparently Ryan Reynolds kind of got a little bit involved into it and also put in his 2 cents and said what he thinks is best for the movie. And apparently, like, whenever you're doing a creative piece, it's kind of hard to hear a bunch of voices saying, no, we're not going to do this. We need to do something else. We're going to do something else. Like, you're wrong. So I think that's what ended up happening with at least the directorial part of it. But the reason why Blake Lively's been getting a lot of criticism is because of the way that she's handling the press and talking about the movie. She's very avoidant whenever it comes to talking about the domestic violence part of the movie. She's kind of promoting it as if it's a romance rom-com situation. And like, mind you, there are funny pieces. There are funny elements in the movie, and there are sweet elements in the movie. But there's also really intense and serious, parts of the movie, given what the movie is about. She just avoids the darkness of the movie. And people are like, why? Why are you doing this? And she keeps on making, like, jokes, not about domestic violence, but she keeps on making jokes to avoid talking about the hard parts. And just other things have been coming up about how she's just kind of avoidant and a little rude and all this stuff. And it's unfortunate. I've always I never really liked Blake Lively, but I think that she's pretty. I've always kind of envisioned her as kind of like apparently she's a Nepo baby. I did not know that. Doesn't surprise me though. Of just kind of like I get a lot. She seems sweet in general. I think she seems like a sweet person, but I don't think that she's handling the situation very well. People are calling her a mean girl. People are saying that, she's not handling this well at all. Like, she's this, like, the point of this movie is just kind of like going over her head, and I do agree with that to some degree. I don't know what's enticing her to go about this in the way that it is. That happened. I did watch it. The movie itself is actually pretty good. Like I said, there are some hard bits in it, but overall, I would say the worst part about that movie was the dialogue between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, their characters. It just was weird. Most of the time it was really weird. Blake, I don't know what it was, but her, like, I typically think that she's a decent actress. I'm not saying that she was bad in this necessarily. It just felt very forced, I guess. There was a lot of laughing, which I don't feel like any real person laughs that much. But besides that, I like the other guy, the other man that's in the movie, and I liked her and his storyline a lot. At the end of the day, it is a romance. It has just bad and sad elements in it. But yeah, go check it out if you are interested in that type of stuff. I've heard that the book is pretty bad. Like pretty graphic or something like that. Violent, I don't know. The movie itself it wasn't that bad in my opinion. Finally, I briefly mentioned this in like a couple episodes ago about the Umbrella Academy show. I know it's been out for probably a couple weeks now, but I finally finished it. I finally finished the Umbrella Academy, and I'm gonna say I did cry at the end. I was not expecting to cry because like I said in the previous episode, that show just kind of went downhill to a degree for me, like storyline wise. Not I think the production of it and the actors and everything, like they were doing their best with what they were given, in my opinion. The storyline just kind of went all over the place and crazy in the second and third season. The fourth season itself, I think, was actually pretty good. I would say it's on par with the second season, in my opinion. Music is not on par with the first season at all, if you were wondering. I actually don't remember a single thing about single music that happened in the fourth season besides literally the last clip where they played a song from the first season. So there's that, I guess. I thought it was pretty good. There was some elements about it that was confusing, and I'm going to talk about the storyline a little bit. So if you're not interested in the Umbrella Academy, then thank you for listening. You're okay to sign off now. I completely understand. Tune in next week for another episode. Love you guys. For those of you who do like the Umbrella Academy, I just have a couple thoughts that I wanted to share. I did kind of post some of my thoughts on TikTok, but I figured I could talk about them a little bit on here as well. So what happens at the end of the third season is like literally the entirety of existence was just disappearing. Luther got killed. Everything was disappearing. And Allison ended up restarting the timeline. The third season just kind of ends with them just disappearing into a vastness of nothing. The fourth season starts where they are all just normal people. They are, they don't have powers. I guess restarting the timeline meant that it took away their marigold, which is the power inside of them. The lighting is going away. I gotta talk quickly. The marigold is no longer with them, so they don't have their powers anymore. So they just are living very basic and bland lives. Like Diego is a UPS type driver. Allison works in TV commercials. Luther is a stripper. Victor owns a bar, which I thought was really weird to me. It said like 6 years had passed, so like good for you for figuring out how to own and run a business in Canada. I feel like that's harder than they made it seem. But the one thing that I didn't like about Victor in this season specifically, one thing that I didn't necessarily like about Victor in the season was like literally the first thing that they did to introduce him, and that was saying that he runs through girls like crazy. Like the one of the people that he was around said something like, well, that's the very last girl in this town. Victor's gone through all of them. I thought that was a little weird because Victor's character in the past has been a very, like, even whenever he was not under, you know, the drugs that his dad was giving him, he still was a decently, like, reserved and shy and polite person. And it's just hard for me to envision Victor running through an entire town of girls. That was just off to me. Like, I was more envisioning maybe not him being in like a very serious relationship necessarily, but having at least one stable one, you know, because who he was seeing in, I think it was the second season, that lady, he was very much so just very focused on her. So that's what I was expecting in the fourth season, I guess, and that just didn't happen. And I thought that was weird. I thought it was weird for me, but whatever, I guess, you do you. But then Ben, you know, it's Ben, but it's not Ben. It's like I forget what they're called. They were in the third season. The like other version of Ben is with them, and he went to jail. He just got out of jail, living with Luther now. Luther is not even living in a house. I don't even know how that place is not condemned. Like, it's random things like that. As per usual, things start to go to shit, and Victor gets kidnapped by this random guy who is Alvin and the Chipmunks' uncle. If you know, you know. They get kind of like recruited to go save this girl, but this girl is actually like what's going to cause the end of the world, but they don't know that. Ben falls in love with this girl, but they can't fall in love with each other because this girl has this power inside of her that when you know, connecting with the marigold power, it literally creates a monster made out of their flesh when they touch each other. So, spoilers. Yeah, that's definitely a weird concept. So the entire, you know, the show happens where they're trying to get this girl, then they're trying not to get this girl, and they're trying to find Ben, and then they're 5 and whatever her name is, I always forget her name for some reason. They get trapped in this subway that literally has no relevance to the storyline at all. It's just there. 5 can't really use his powers normally. His powers just take him to this subway to see a bunch of different versions of a timeline. Like the same day in each timeline is able to travel, but then they get lost for 6-7 years. And then 5 and this girl whom is Diego's wife end up hooking up and becoming a couple. Yeah, anyway. So, and then it ends where they're like, okay, you know, Ben and this girl end up merging together to become a disgusting monster. Disgusting, bulging, wet looking monster. And they realize that the only way to destroy this monster is if they if they end up killing themselves or letting this monster get to them to take all of their marigold. And as long as all of the marigold gets taken, then the world will end, but the timeline will reset to just one timeline instead of what was like hundreds of thousands of timelines. And apparently there's all these timelines because they exist. So in other words, the world keeps on ending in every single timeline because they exist. And they only exist because Sir Reginald, wanted to sleep with his wife again. That's a little dramatic. He just wanted, he missed his wife, wanted to be with his wife. But his wife, at the end of the day, was the one that created the bad magic to therefore create the so-called cleanse, to therefore destroy everything. So, yeah, are we just going to ignore the fact that Reginald and his wife are literally aliens? Like, they're wearing masks, and his wife literally, like, chainsaw massacres a man, like, kills him with this tentacle thing. I don't even know if it was tentacle. It kind of looked like a tentacle, like a knife tentacle. And then he's dead, okay? You know what she does? She rips his body open, tears out his intestines, and then goes inside his body and wears him like a suit. Are we just going to pretend that didn't happen? I was very disturbed in that scene. She is a body snatcher. She's a body snatcher. She's scary. And they're aliens. I feel like that wasn't talked about enough. That they're aliens. Anyway, so they end up dying. All of them end up sacrificing themselves so that the world can continue. But my question is, they had to give up their marigold so that the cleanse could happen, so the timeline could restart and go into one. But if they literally started off the season without marigold, doesn't that mean that they can survive without it? So why did they have to die? They got their marigold back because Ben tricked them into drinking it in a shot. So they got their marigold back. Yippee-dee-doo! My question is, why couldn't they just go back in time? Because they've been doing that throughout every other season. Why can't they go back in time somehow, some way? Because it obviously is possible in that world. So figure out a way to go back into time, stop Ben from giving the marigold in the shot, and destroy the marigold. Or, I don't know, unfortunately go kill that girl. Or, something like that. Like, I also don't understand. I don't understand how if, like, Allison and all of them don't exist anymore. Like, the whole concept was, it's not just that they died. It's the fact that they don't exist and that they never existed. No one is going to remember them. No, like, they're not going to leave a single dent in history existed. Like, dead to everything. Not existing. How is it that their kids are alive? Because they would not be alive. The only way they would be alive is if they were adopted. But they weren't adopted. They were their kids. But in the final timeline, there they are. There's little Claire. There's the little kids that Diego popped. Diego and I think her name's Lila. Diego and Lila popped out. Who's Diego? Who's Allison? We don't know. They don't exist. We don't know who they are. So where'd these freaking kids come from? Anyway, I did cry because it's the end of an era. And at the end of the day, even though I say the show is not great, storyline wise, it's not that good. It still has a special place in my heart. I'm 21. I watched it like a week ago. And the first day I ever watched it was on my 16th birthday. So Umbrella Academy has been in my life for a long time. It feels a long time. And now it's over. Now it's done. I will admit, when I was 16, I had a crush on 5. I had a crush on 5, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm not afraid to admit it. Maybe a little bit. But I did have a crush on 5. Okay? Even though he's an old man in a kid's body, still had a crush on him. The actor, I guess. Because the actor and I are like close to the same age, at least. I actually have no idea. 5, his age is confusing. In a 13-year-old's body, but he's like 60 years old, so I think it's fine that I liked him at 16. I don't now. I don't. I like Luther. Anyway. Also, speaking of freaking Luther, in the beginning of this 4th season, he's a stripper. He doing his thing, he dancing on a pole, not doing very well, but it's okay. He's trying his best. Gets the marigold, becomes a gorilla again. I didn't think about this at first. It didn't come to my brain until I saw someone comment about it saying the marigold never gave Luther the appearance of a gorilla. It only gives Luther super strength. That's his ability. He got the gorilla appearance because of the time that he almost died and they had to insert gorilla juices. That sounded really wrong. How do I rephrase that? They had to gorilla-ify him to save his life, therefore making him look like half a gorilla. So in this new timeline, whenever he got the marigold, he never got the gorilla injection thing. So why does he look like a gorilla? He should literally just look like Luther with superpowers, with super strength. Why does he look like a gorilla? I'm not mad about it. He's just super hairy. It's just a little, let's think about this for a second. Anyway, I've been talking about this for way too long. I will continue to watch The Umbrella Academy over and over again because I do like that show. Well, at the end of the day, I do like that show. If you haven't seen it and you like superhero stuff and you like weird stuff, go check it out because it's actually decent. I think another reason why I cried at the end was because in the, final timeline, they showed people from past seasons that have died, including Hazel and his birdie Girly. I miss Hazel. I liked Hazel, and I saw Hazel and I was like, oh no. I think Mom was there too. I forget her actual name, but she was there with her little baby, I think, unless I'm going crazy. The thing that threw me off though was that her hair was red. Typically her hair is blonde, so that might not have been her, and I'm just going crazy. I wanted it to be her, though. I wanted it to be her. There was a couple other people, too, like the 3 blind mice men, that's what I call them, and the handler, like her. I wish her hair was still white, but it wasn't. So yeah, little trip down memory lane in a cute little park where they all just were. They happened to be there, even though I don't think any of them would be living in the same area, but that's fine. It's fine. There are my rants of the day. Haven't you missed it? You know you like it, though. You know you like it. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you so much for being here and watching. I know it's been hard for me to record this thinking that no one's actually going to listen. So for those of you who are listening, I love you, I appreciate you, and thank you for being here. I'm going to do my little rundown real fast. If you want your story to be in my next episode, you can email me at kindaunamusepod@yahoo.com, or you can DM me at madrosepie on Instagram. And I'm also madrosepie on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. If you want to check me out on there, I do promotions for my podcast up on my TikTok if you're interested. I'm checking those out. And I have the video version of each episode on my podcast. So you can go check that out if you would like to see my face. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And I love you. See y'all later. See you next week. Bye.